Okay, and finally for the fourth movement analysis of Haydn Symphony number 94. Just as a quick reminder of the overview, back to the PowerPoint we went through before all these videos, this fourth movement, as is the case in most movement fours, we have sonata rondo form here, which is essentially saying we have these two main themes, A and B, and then we come back to the A section. We have the C developmental section, and then we go back ABA. So rondo form. So looking at the first A theme, again, Haydn kind of sets us up with more of a pretty typical in G major, starting out in that G major again key. Kind of sets us up with this four-phrase structure, ending here with this kind of antecedent phrase, and then the consequent phrase going here. So making you feel like with this little anacrusis, he's going to set you up for this symmetrical phrase structure of four measure phrases. And that's how we start out that main A theme. Right away, though, you'll see at measure 21, he does utilize, once again, this melodic pattern of melodic sequencing. Okay, getting to the dominant here, C sharp up to D, leading up to that 5 chord, that 5 of 5 leading to the 5 here. But with these little short melodic motives being repeated in sequence. So another example of that technique, very typical of 18th century. However, then he starts deviating away from that in the sense that he kind of omits the upbeat of this little theme here. And you're going to hear that these 16th notes feel like they're getting ready to end the phrase, but because they keep moving, we get this kind of phrase elision here, which creates kind of this asymmetrical phrase structure feel. So we have and it feels like there's this kind of extra measure in there, and they don't get that 4-measure balance phrase anymore. Then he continues to develop this idea through this next section, because he ends the little melody here this time slightly differently with this descending 7th here, and then this F sharp leading tone of the scale now moving up to the G. So just like a slightly different ending to that theme that you'll hear. Then we have this section starting at measure 38, which is known as an episode. It's kind of a transition material, and you'll hear it kind of alters into the relative minor here. We start getting these D sharps here leading us into E, which is the minor 6, so that relative minor feel. And then eventually we do move back into D major. I'm sorry, D major and then E major again. At measure 59, there's a melodic technique that I want to point out to you as well. He starts utilizing the same idea of building up with this melodic sequence. You're going to hear this build up like we're kind of inflating a balloon to develop that original theme. But then you're going to hear this kind of chromatic descent, and it kind of like deflates the balloon. It's like it's going to pop into this explosive kind of energy, and then we have this chromatic deflation. So that's both a melodic technique generally and also a way that Haydn utilizes humor. Another example of Haydn's humor is if you look at measure 74, we get this abrupt pause right at the end of the episode before we start the B theme in the dominant key, which is D major. So giving us, before the elision of the phrases, this time giving us the cadence and then a break so that we really hear that cadence pause and then moving here. That's kind of the way he kind of structures the symmetrical phrases, then the asymmetrical phrases by aligning the phrases together and then giving you a break at the end to be like, this time I really want you to hear the end of the phrase before starting the B section. So again, using that for humor. Then we've got some counterpoint here between these voices in the B section. So right away, a little bit more complex texture, moving from here to here, the second violins against the first violins in D major. And again, we get melodic sequence material with this theme going at measure 94. Okay, you're going to see that we get this little descending sequence here melodically in the flutes and oboe. So listen for that. And then once again, just like in movement 1, we get this sense of repetition where he's trying to lead us back. And this is, by the way, measures 95 to 98. And he's trying to lead us back melodically and harmonically, for that matter, back to the A section. But we keep kind of getting stuck here with these C sharps going to D to C sharp to D to C sharp to D. And then we kind of get this movement here where it's like we're kind of melodically stuck. There's like another malfunction here where there's like a broken record or something. And then we do finally get back into our A melody. So that's the repeat of that melody. But we get that kind of cadential expansion happening at 101 into 103. And then we never really get a confirmed cadence here, but at measure 108 through measure 112, we kind of get this melodic interruption here, where we're moving along, feeling like we're going to develop this phrase in G major, but then we kind of get this B minor feel that we never really confirm, and we get this kind of melodic interruption here. So listen for that at this measure, another way that Haydn is utilizing humor there. And then finally, but with this kind of expositional space here, we get at measure 134 at the end of this return of the A. Once again, this kind of broken record feel here, where you're going to hear this melodic pattern get stuck right at measure, it kind of sets it up there, and that measures 134 to 138. And then right after 39, we kind of get stuck here melodically to create that feeling of humor before moving into the developmental C space. Okay, and then the development section at measure 152. Measure 152 is where we kind of start this C development section, and right away he starts developing these motives melodically with these rising sequences. You're going to see kind of this pattern here that's going to have this sequence rising up in the parallel minor development section in G minor here. And that is one way we're going to develop these themes that were introduced. And then we finally get the recap, but again with a cadential expansion. Measure 178 is an example of this. 178 through the actual recap, which occurs right here at measure 182. But we get this broken record effect of all these 16th notes. Like, when are we going to recap? When are we going to recap? And then finally we get it back into G major there on that space. All right. So here is all of that kind of in structure with the actual music playing. This is the beginning of movement 3. There's that antecedent phrase. And then we get that nice symmetrical phrase structure, at least seemingly so. There's that melodic sequence. And then we get that kind of phrase elision there with that upbeat omitted. Here's the episode. Using the relative minor there. E major, dominant. Now listen for this. Inflating the balloon. We get that kind of chromatic deflation. And then there's the B section. I'll give you that nice little pause to make sure you knew that here's the next theme. Melodic sequence. We're leading back to A. And then we get the little elevator stuck. And then we get the subject. So again, that cadential expansion before going back to the A section. And then we hear that melodic interruption there. Feeling of that broken record, getting stuck. And then here comes the development section. Developing in the parallel minor, G minor, rising sequence. And he has motetic development here now, following disjunct leaps. There's those descending jump leaps. And then what are we recapping? And then we get the recapitulation. And then pretty much all of that is repeated. All right, so then that is movement 4. Hopefully that is somewhat helpful in your analysis of this piece. Of course, feel free to text me or email me if you have any specific questions about this that you would like further clarification on the symphony. So thank you so much.